every life has a spark, a truth the heart never forgets.
And sometimes one conversation is enough to bring it back.
No ego, no noise, just real insights that inspire and brighten the path ahead.
Because living with love isn't an idea, it's a choice that we make every day.
Today, we are not talking about millions of hectares or global emission. We are talking about just one forest, 30,000 hectares in Bolivia, a living corridor linking indigenous territories to the Amazon, where children grow up, jaguars still walk, rivers run still and clear, and which could soon become just another soy field.
So, our first guest today is Professor Carlos Nobre, one of the world's leading scientists on the Amazon, Brazilian Earth System scientist, former IPCC author, and co chair of the Science Panel for the Amazon. He has spent decades warning that the Amazon is nearing a tipping point, and he's building Amazonia 4.0, a standing forest bioeconomy.
Right, and our second guest is Helena Lindemark, Swedish impact entrepreneur, co-founder and CEO of Amazonas for Life, and founder of the 2022 Initiative Foundation. She works side by side with indigenous communities in Bolivia to protect forests like this last corridor of life and turn them into sources of dignified livelihood. So, Carlos, Helena, welcome to Swiss Impact with Ben and Sveta. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Carlos, where are you based at this moment?
I'm based in the state of São Paulo, southeastern Brazil, in the city is called São José dos Campos. I'm a professor at University of São Paulo, full professor of climate and sustainability.
And Helena, yourself?
I'm right now based in Stockholm, Sweden, but I also work in Bolivia from time to time.
So before we talk science and law, let's start with your hearts. So when you close your eyes and think of this forest, what is the first image that appears? The one that either breaks your heart or keeps you fighting?
What keeps me fighting is that this forest is still standing, and we can keep it standing in collaboration with indigenous nations, north and south of the forest. They can take legal action, which they already have done. And this can stop this ongoing sale to Brazilian agribusiness that is currently a high risk of taking place. So that gives me hope. We can stop this.
And for you, Carlos, what do you see?
I fortunately went for the first time in the Amazon. That was 1971. Deforestation was almost zero at that time. And I could see the Amazon, the forest, the rivers. I visited the first indigenous territories in the Brazilian state of Acre. So, I fell in love with the Amazon when I was 20 years old. And I decided I had to work in the Amazon for the Amazon. But of course, I could not believe all Amazonian countries would do what they did starting in the 1970s, almost destroying the Amazon. So, but still, my mind, my heart is that Amazon that I saw when I was 20 years old.
Helena, and this is not just a project for you, right? So can you take us back to the moment when you realized that there's a forest, the last corridor of life, and it might be sold and destroyed? So what shifted inside of you that you moved and got into action? So what happened?
My first visit to the Amazon was in the 1990s when I was working at the United Nations in Bolivia. So I really fell in love with both Bolivia and the Amazon. I went back to Bolivia in 2022. Shortly after that, I was introduced to this forest, and I realized that, oh my goodness, this is really literally the last corridor of life, connecting Chiquitania, the dry tropical forest of Chiquitania, with the rest of the Amazon biome. I knew that the current owners, Dutch family business, they wanted to sell. So I've been focusing on trying to find a solution for this forest since then, because this is really concrete impact. You can get a positive impact if it's saved all over the Amazon and definitely in the Chiquitania region. If it's not saved, you would have the other way around, a very negative impact. So that's why I've been working on this to find solutions for 2.5 years.
Carlos, and for you, you've been warning about the Amazon forest for decades. You've been talking about the pivotal point. Was there a moment when this stopped being just your profession and became your life's mission? So when did that happen and why?
Well, I was the first scientist who did work that was 1980s, 88, 89, and they published two articles, science articles, 1990 and 91, Science and Journal of Climate, saying if we continue with deforestation in the Amazon, then we are going to run across the tipping point. But at that time, like deforestation was 7%. Unfortunately, deforestation never stopped. Today is 17, 18%, more than 1 million square kilometers. The forest mostly over southern Amazon, including southwestern Amazon, the border between Brazil and Bolivia. So that's one area that's very close to a tipping point. That is the most deforested area. So I've been doing work about the risk of the tipping point. I created in 1999 the largest scale biosphere atmosphere experiment in the Amazon. It's called LBA experiment. We brought hundreds of scientists from Amazonia countries, from US, from 5 European countries. And so these hundreds of students, they did a lot of work. And these studies now show the Amazon is at the edge of the tipping point. So I was always working on that, on the tipping point, on the tipping point. And then something came to me 2018, 19. I said, well, look, I've been working for more than 30 years about the tipping point, but I've never looked for solutions. So then I create the Amazonia 4.0 project, which is really to start demonstrating the feasibility of what we call a social bioeconomy of healthy standing forests and flowing rivers. And then we started this project with the cocoa, the production of chocolate. We capacitate 4 communities that are now producing biofactories to produce chocolate and many other products from cocoa, but also cupuaçu. That's the indigenous name. It's very similar to cocoa. Then you can produce also chocolate out of this cupuaçu. It's called copulati. And now we are finishing capacitating the first indigenous community in the Amazon. It's called Paiter Surui community. They will be the first community really to use their knowledge, but also our science industry 4.0 to produce about 250 kilograms of chocolate a day. So that's very interesting. But also now we are going to produce also a laboratory for Brazil nuts. Now, this initiative is just to demonstrate that we have to value the knowledge of indigenous people. They never deforest. They created the so-called agroforestry systems. The indigenous people, when the Europeans came to the Americas 500 years ago, there were more than 2,000 ethnic groups in the Amazon, 8 to 10 million people living there. They were using more than 2,300 products, 1,500 medicinal plants, 250 fruits, 350 vegetable oils, and many other products, always maintaining the forest. So really, it's time now for us to get to zero deforestation, absolutely zero, including in this area in Bolivia. This area, as I mentioned, That's the area closest to the tipping point of southern Amazon, including that area. We have to get to zero deforestation and then, on the contrary, larger scale forestry restoration. So we have really to do that for all of the Amazon, and then to give scale to the social bioeconomy. I don't even say new, because the indigenous people always had that social bioeconomy. They were exchanging all these products, including the medicinal plants. So anyway, I'm just saying that's what I really am very enthusiastic to look for nature-based solutions.
In Bolivia, there is actually still wild cacao, and we are actually importing wild chocolate from Bolivia. That could be used also for rewilding, because the cacao industry is in a bit of a problematic situation. And also in this particular forest that we're talking about today, there are these baru nuts that also grow in Brazil, probably the most nutritious nut known in the world.
Biru nuts, another kind of nuts. Okay, I never tried
Okay.
it before.
Almendra chiquitana in Bolivian. And inside this nut, there is a small seed, looks like this. And this is the one most nutritious nut in the world. So we have a collaboration with Karolinska Institute in Stockholm. They're going to use these nuts for their kidney patients in a project starting now in January.
This is amazing. And
Yes.
but Helena, for someone watching from Europe or Asia who have never been to Bolivia, where exactly is this forest, and why do you call it the last corridor of life between the Chiquitano region and the indigenous territories of Lomerio and Monteverde?
Because it is really the last corridor. It's the last forested corridor in the northern part of Chiquitania. It's located in northeast Bolivia and in the northern part of Chiquitania. And Chiquitania is a dry tropical forest that is part of the Amazon biome. And this particular forest is almost completely deforested to the east and to the west of the forest. South of this forest, there's an area called Lomerio, an indigenous nation. And right north of the forest, there is another huge indigenous territory called Monteverde. So this forest both connects those two indigenous territories and Chiquitania with the rest of the Amazon rainforest. So, and also just north of this forest is where the Amazon rainforest goes from being a dry tropical forest to a self-watering rainforest. So therefore, it's really crucial to keep. If you don't, you disconnect Chiquitania from the rest of the Amazon, and it would lead to devastating effects. Because if you deforest this forest, it would lead to degradation and drought in the Chiquitania region, because it would have a negative impact on atmospheric rivers. And it would also have negative effects on the rest of the Amazon rainforest.
And Carlos, if these 30,000 hectares are cleared, what changes in the bigger story? So, for a family watching from the sofa in Europe like us, what does it mean for rainfall, droughts, and fires in that region, and for the Amazon system that you study?
Already, the deforestation of large portion of the Amazon is making the aerial rivers to reduce 10 to 20% of water vapor transport to the south, including this dry forest in central southern Bolivia and the tropical savanna in parts of Bolivia and Brazil. So this is terrible. And also, this is the area with the largest number of forest fires. 2024, we had a record-breaking number of forest fires, including in that area in Bolivia. It will make droughts to be much stronger. And let me explain, very simple. Ecological, climatic, hydrological evolution of the Amazon forest, tens of millions of years, makes the forest recycle water very efficiently. The forest recycles 4 to 4.5 liters of water per square meter per day. During the rainy season, 3 liters per square meter per day. when you replace the forest, recycles only 1 to 1.5 liters. And that's the main reason why the forest is becoming drier, tree mortality is increasing. So that's one more element because, since you're not recycling a lot of water, you reduce rainfall, you increase the temperature, as I mentioned, all this southern Amazon 2 3 degrees warmer during the dry season. So this is really as we call ecocide. It's a
Yeah.
ecological suicide for the Amazon, and that's for the planet. Because if we lose the Amazon, we are going to lose to release in 50, 30 to 50 years more than 250 billion tons of carbon dioxide. If we release all this greenhouse gas, impossible to maintain global temperature below 1.5 degrees. We are going to lose the highest biodiversity in the planet. One more terrible risk for humans, for the planet, is that if we degrade the Amazon forest, we are going to have many epidemics and even pandemics. For instance, for the first time in 500 years, since the Europeans came to the Americas, we had in 2024 the first two epidemics, Maiaro fever, Oropush fever. This Maiaro is mostly in the Amazon, including parts of Bolivia, and Oropush fever is spread because it's transmitted by insect that exists in many areas, not only in the Amazon.
Helena, and the local indigenous people can stop this, right? You say that only they can, but they need legal support. So, how can the audience maybe engage and provide this legal support which is required?
Well, we have initiated a fundraising campaign through the 2020 Initiative Foundation and the Noel Kemp Foundation in Bolivia, where we support the indigenous people to take legal action. And they've already started to present a memorandum to ABT, the Forest Authority, and next step is INRA, and then it will be a process. So definitely, it's possible to support this through supporting our fundraising campaigns.
And can you share one short story of a person from one of these communities, a leader, a mother, a young person, who for you embodies this fight?
In Sikol, for example, they are very well known for their excellent administration capacities. And they are very good at keeping their forests standing. So they are among these indigenous nations that are taking action now legally. Apart from that, I mean, they are also very entrepreneurial, many of them. For example, I mean, which is a bit innovative to us, the fact that they integrate cattle into the forest and work together with the cattle with these nuts and stuff like that. And I've also met several women in Lomerillo that were producing, there's an oil that you can get out of these nuts. They were producing shampoo and things like that. That they were selling, and yeah, really entrepreneurial and believing in their forest and making a living. So this is really crucial.
Carlos, and I want to dig a little bit more into that tipping point story, because a lot of times we have an impression that it's somewhere far away, so it here in Switzerland doesn't concern us, or here in Europe it doesn't bother us so much. So tell us why it's so important to keep Amazon from crossing the tipping point, and if we fail them here, what does it mean for all of us? So in like no, how to say, no mask, just straightforward, just give it to right in our faces.
Well, of course, the science knows the world has many, many tipping points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will only mention two. One very close to Helena, the permafrost close to the North Pole. It's already melting. The permafrost has a tremendous amount of greenhouse gases, mostly methane and also carbon dioxide. It's already melting. And the two, if I mention only those two tipping points, permafrost and the Amazon, by 2100, we're going to release more than 500 billion tons of greenhouse gases. And the temperature will reach 3 to 4 degrees by 2100. Even in your country, during summer, is inhabitable. In the Amazon, inhabitable. The Amazon will be almost all except in the mountains, inhabitable. This is just to tell you the risks that we're really taking. So if we cross the tipping point, not only releasing huge amount of carbon dioxide, losing the largest biodiversity, inducing a larger number of epidemics and even pandemics, but also we are going to turn the tropical savanna south of the Amazon into a very dry, semi-arid ecosystem.
If we step back from all these hectares and CO2 for a moment and looking at how we as humanity treating forest and the indigenous people today, who in your eyes are we as a species?
If this forest is actually sold to agribusiness, we are not good as humanity if we don't manage to stop this. And I will continue fighting for this forest until the bitter end. That's why I've spent 2.5 years doing it. Even if it's sometimes difficult, I haven't lost hope. It's still possible.
And Carlos, what do you think about us as humans, as species?
Let me say, I fully agree with Helena. I will just compliment. My dream is let's really invert what the Europeans did when they came to the Americas 500 years ago. They completely ignore the knowledge of all indigenous people. They brought products from Europe. They never value any of the major biodiversity. So let's invert. Now, we all descend of Europeans. Really, let's value the indigenous people knowledge and let's protect and save all our biomes.
And Elena, since starting this journey with the forest and its people, what has changed in your understanding of the purpose of your own life and purpose of life of us as humans?
I would find it difficult to work with something that I don't feel has a purpose. And really, when I found this particular forest, I mean, I went to Bolivia because of the fact that the Amazon was approaching its tipping point, and I wanted to find a way that I could do something to support changing this fact. And when I found this, I found the purpose for a while, at least for
How
me.
does it feel to have found the purpose?
Uh, it feels really good. I feel like if I manage to do this, or we manage to do this together, I cannot do it alone, of course, but I can do my part of it, and everybody else's parts are as important. So it feels really good. I feel joy and happiness, even though it's sometimes difficult. I couldn't work with something that wouldn't feel like you have a purpose, really. So that's for sure.
And Carlos, for you, what is true love today? And how does your work for the Amazon connects to this word?
Well, my true love since I was 20 years old, I fell in love with the forest. I fell in love. I've been working for 43 years in the Amazon as well. I'm in love with the beautiful forest and also the biodiversity. Every time we go to the Amazon, we see so many, birds, insects, the jaguar, beautiful jaguar. I've seen even the black jaguar. It's so beautiful, the biodiversity in the Amazon.
If this forest could send you a short message like a text on your phone, what do you think it would say to you right now?
Well, also, the very simple message that I don't understand why people use fossil fuels is that photosynthesis is the reason we are here. If not for photosynthesis removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere for billions of years, the amount of CO2 carbon dioxide would be so much. The temperature would be much higher, no way for us. So, forests, photosynthesis is a tremendous ecosystem service maintaining the carbon dioxide deep in the soil. So I would say I'm in love with forests because they keep the planet in a way that we can exist.
Amazing. I think people often forget that what trees exhale, we are inhaling it, right? So it's like we are connected, obviously, right? So they are here for helping us to be alive. So how can we cut it down? Because then we are digging some hole for ourselves.
So let's move from fear to action. So, if this corridor is saved, the sale is stopped, and the forest is secured, what is your clear, simple plan for the next 5 to 10 years?
Our plan is to make this forest into a flagship project together with Indigenous nations and show to the surrounding areas and the world that a regenerative bioeconomy is possible and sustainable, both economically, socially, and financially, and also spread this message to the world. That is the plan, and of course, this bioeconomy includes especially non-timber forest product like the baru nuts, carbon and biodiversity credits, and so on. And also the land tenure would be transferred gradually to the indigenous nations who are the guardians of this forest. And actually, they are not living in this particular forest now because it has been privately owned for a long time. But they used to live in this forest, and there are archaeological remains in the forest. I've seen them myself from the indigenous people in the region. So it should be there.
So if I donate or invest to support this project, what exactly happens with my money in next 6, 12 months or 24 months? What is possible to on the ground to do and what people will be able to see or measure?
So the only ones who can actually stop this now is the indigenous or the local communities and the indigenous nations in particular. They've already started this legal process because it is illegal to make this forest into agricultural land. There is a strong judgment from 2019 that forbids this. This process has started, but it will take quite some time. So the support now has to focus on supporting this legal process that will take quite some time, most probably. But hopefully, we could stop this faster. And then we need impact investors and philanthropists to solve this once and
Right.
for all.
Carlos, imagine that we succeed here, and also similar other key corridors follow the same path. Take us to a scene in the year 2040. What does the Amazon look like, and what have we avoided by acting today?
Well, for sure, if we succeed in protecting the Amazon, you have seen during COP30, Brazil launched the Tropical Forest Forever facility. Let's hope we are going to succeed because that it's not only for the Amazon, but all tropical forests in the planet, but all of the Amazon. So, that will generate $4 per hectare per year if you protect the forest. And 20% of that goes to indigenous people. So they are trying to get $125 billion investments, and that investment will generate this amount. So that will really much better. This is for protecting the forest, to stop zero deforestation completely and move towards forestry restoration.
Right. And for everyone watching, citizens, philanthropists, impact investor, policymakers, what are the top 2 or 3 actions they can take right now to help protect this land, this last corridor of life?
Well, right now, the indigenous people need more support for the legal action, and they will also, dealing with organizations, yes, definitely support our fundraising campaigns. Later on, we would, or even now, we would love to connect also with philanthropists and impact investors. Because this is a concrete example of a very concrete impact, positive impact that you can have. So to connect with those already now, to be ready once this forest is the sale is stopped.
Ready. And in one sentence each, what gives you real hope that we can still change the story of Amazon on time?
Well, I'm optimistic because we have to convince the young generation to save the Amazon. Let's work hard on that.
Thank
Great.
you.
And Helena?
Well, this forest is still standing, and we can save it. It's not too late to act, but we need to act now, and then we can prove that everything is possible. There are no limits.
That I agree. Everything is possible and it's our conscious choice, right? Do we do something about it or we don't? So I hope everyone who's watching will do something about it because I believe we are all connected with the forest and we are all connected by our hearts. So thank you very much, Carlos, Elena. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for engagement, for everyone on this planet and for Amazon specifically, of course, to help us to breathe. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to everyone watching, what happens to this one corridor in Bolivia will decide the future of our climate and the world for your children and grandchildren to live with. So if this touches you, just don't scroll to the next video. Take one small action today. Thank you for sharing this space with us today.
Remember, real impact begins the moment you stop running from who you are.
Let today's story remind you that every soul carries light, even through darkness.
Until next time, stay open, stay human, and lead with love.